Hello, everybody. Welcome to the review. It is 10:50 p.m. Came out of theater not too long ago after watching Blue Beetle. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get into details of this film. If you happen to like the content of the channel, please be sure to hit the subscribe button below and spread the word to your friends and family, and leave a comment at the end of the video. Blue Beetle is a character that I was never overly familiar with. I never read the comic books, never knew anything about the character in and of itself. The only thing that I can remember hearing about him in passing from, say, customers or co-workers or managers, best way to describe Blue Beetle would be he's the uh, overall representation of, say, DC's version of Spider-Man and Venom. I've always enjoyed Marvel and DC equally, but DC has always had the much more interesting characters, villains, and themes and storylines, and the darker reflections of how they were able to make the audience, make the readers or the viewers feel the conflict that exists with those characters. Not to say that Marvel doesn't have any of that. It's just Marvel, as far as their universe is concerned, when it comes to cinema, with the exception of, say, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, they've often played it too safe. And DC and Warner Bros. Has found themselves in such a weird and precarious position where you're not quite sure exactly what is giving them so much trouble as far as being able to establish a consistent universe without alienating the fan base, or creating such a product that has a polarization of reviews from both sides of the spectrum. So I've always enjoyed Superman, Wonder Woman, Batman, Aquaman, Green Lantern. Those characters for me were shaped and molded my very childhood. I've always loved those specific characters. So hearing that this was receiving a live action adaptation, considering the amount of legal and creative and behind the scenes drama that DC and Warner Bros. Has found themselves in, I wasn't quite sure what to expect. I know I'm going to mispronounce his name and butcher it most likely, so please do not be afraid to correct me if I do get it wrong. Zolo Maradina, from what I've seen of him in Cobra Kai, I thought the show in and of itself, the episodes that I watched, was very remarkable, and he does a great job. He plays a character, Jamie Reyes slash Blue Beetle, comes into contact with this alien ancient artifact that has chosen him and granted him this powerful exoskeleton, while unfortunately for him, he becomes a target along with his family of this shady corporate government organization led by Victoria Cord, played by Susan Sarandon. She wants this power back. She wants to basically create an army of Blue Beetles, if you will. So as he's attempted to get used to his power, of course there is this strong family connection that is very well, beautifully realized on the big screen from my perspective, because I can remember having a lot of friends who in Germany and California, uh, very much driven by the Hispanic culture, and those people know in that specific culture, and and the message that they provide within this film is something that I do believe everybody can relate to in totality. Those who are of the Hispanic Latino heritage, I imagine they're going to really embrace this warmly, because it's not so much to the point of where it's forcing it down your throat. It is an overall feeling, sensation of emotionality, and that they can fully relate to and embrace. And that is where the film succeeds overall for me, is the fact that it is very heartwarming, emotional, powerful, and the message is there. There is a controversial line within the film that you hear in the trailer. George Lopez's character, he plays the uncle of Jaime Reyes, where he says Batman's a fascist. Given the overall, since this DC film is really not necessarily connected to the DCEU or the DCU, it is very much its own standalone concept. Batman, Superman, the Flash, and Batman, while they exist and are mentioned in the film, they're not so much established, if you will. So it's not as if he has any true familiarity with what Batman represents. So it's more of a throwaway line. I didn't put too much stock into it, but it's just more like he says it, and it's just you forget about it. It's not anything that you focus on. From one of the main gripes I've always had about certain superhero films, especially as of late, the over reliance on comedy. This, when it comes to Blue Beetle, from a performance and acting standpoint, everyone does a remarkable job. They're very believable in their roles. I thought Zolo did a great job as Jaime Reyes and slash Blue Beetle. The real heart of the story is with his character and his uncle, and that is where the story succeeds for me. I thought they had great chemistry, and George Lopez, while overall not my favorite comedian. Honestly, he understands the concept and the role that comedy plays. It's not so much he knows how to make a joke and let the joke set rather than focusing on it too much. And it just would have been better if it was more about the relationship between him and his nephew rather than having the whole family get involved. I understand that obviously the family theme is central to the storyline of this film. Other than that, I could have literally done without the grandmother, the mother, and the sister, and just had it be more focusing on Jaime and his uncle Ray. But it is very a paint by numbers superhero film. It borrows a lot of elements from other films that you are overly familiar with, whether it's Spider-Man, Batman, Superman, the Hulk, Captain America, Iron Man, what have you. It takes every interesting superhero trope from past products and incorporates it into this story. And it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's to be expected, and considering that it is Blue Beetle's first live action adaptation on the big screen, it's very serviceable. I thought it was very entertaining. I thought the special effects of the suit in and of itself was wonderful. The humor, when it wasn't over relied on, it hit the point. There was surprisingly a lot of emotional moments within the film that really hit my heart and soul. And there was one moment in particular that hit me a lot harder than I was expecting, simply because I could relate to it given the circumstances. The I thought Zolo did a wonderful job, and I hope to see more of him because he has such a likable aura about him, where he means well and he wants to do the right thing, and it's simply about protecting his family and also embracing his destiny as a superhero. Susan Sarandon, you don't really see a lot of her. If anything, the side villain that is associated with her character would have been a far more interesting and better direction, because his story interested me more than anything else. But again, it is very much a predictable, formulaic film that you just come to expect. You sit there and you're enjoying the 2-hour 22 minute feature, and that's exactly what it is. It is something that is fun from beginning to end. There is some surprising amount of language in the film, but nothing that is going to really traumatize children. There's some heavy violence in there. I'm just going ahead and warn you about that. Other than that, the film in and of itself is very, very entertaining from beginning to end, and I enjoyed every single second of it. Aside from the over reliance of the comedy and the too much focus on certain family members, I still enjoyed it for what it was. I'm going to go ahead and give the Blue Beetle a 9 out of 10, a 2 thumbs up. I recommend it. It is great for children too. Something that you could take your entire family to watch. That is my review of Blue Beetle. I hope you all enjoyed it. Let me know in the comment section what you thought about it if you have watched it, and you'll be hearing from me again. Take care and peace out.